Justin, what's one post you've shared that's changed somebody's life?
I think one of the most important posts that creators can make are the ones that are vulnerable, sharing their own story, and more specifically sharing things that they struggle with or maybe struggled with. Those are the kinds of posts that seem to draw a connection with people and really provide a sense of hope. And so for me, one of those was one that I posted actually relatively recently, where I got to share my story of struggling with an addiction to LUST for nearly 20 years. And so sharing that story is a bit vulnerable, a bit scary, but then also sharing, hey, through the gospel, through a relationship with Jesus, like this is something that I've been set free from. And so I've been able to share that story and then be able to see so many people in the DMs and the comments just saying, wow, this is so encouraging, so helpful. And then I actually get to journey with people in kind of a coaching relationship and see them experience lasting freedom because of their connection to Jesus. So that's the one that I'm very excited about, very proud about.
Great. Okay, let's try some creative thinking here.
Sure.
Imagine if Jesus had a TikTok account or a YouTube account. What sort of content do you think Jesus would be posting?
I struggle to see Jesus with a phone doing a little bit of a selfie. I think that might stretch my imagination too far. But I think that Jesus would absolutely be the kind of person who, even though he maybe wouldn't want to be public in his ministry, couldn't help it in the sense that people would always be sharing. I think about how Jesus would heal someone and say, hey, don't tell anybody. He's clearly not doing it for publicity. He's not doing it for the crowd. And yet it seems like crowds always flocked to him. So I think that in a digital age where cell phones are the reality, I think that Jesus would absolutely not be vlogging or making his own YouTube channel. But I think that there'd be tons of people filming what Jesus is doing.
Sure.
And sharing that message on his behalf.
Great, great. So as people are watching, what's the biggest myth that they have about sharing their faith online or creating content?
I think one of the biggest myths is that it's actually hard. I think that we overcomplicate what it looks like to create content when it could just be as simple as sharing your story. It could be simple as sharing someone else's quote. There are many different ways to share your faith online, and it doesn't always have to have you in front of a camera.
Okay.
It could just be simply sharing something else that's been meaningful to you.
Great. And so as people are watching this and we want to encourage and equip them to get going, what's one of the biggest mistakes you see people make as they create content and share their faith or create content for their church? What are they doing wrong?
I think the biggest mistake is that they're thinking about it too much.
Uh-huh.
Someone told me that it takes about 100 hours to get good at something like social media, but most people will take 20, 40, 60, 80 years to start that first hour of learning. And so I think that it's the fear of not having everything perfect that we're getting wrong.
And so your advice then would be to just take that step, have a go, don't be paralyzed by perfection,
of course.
Those sort of things.
Be willing to post something that maybe isn't perfect, but then learn from it, and that's the key to success.
Well, let's build on that then. So what 3 critical things should people do then if they want to create content for their church, or if they want to create content that shares their story, their journey they've had with Jesus? What are the top 3 things that people should do?
I think one simple thing that they can do is do quote-style posts. And so film a little moment from your life. Maybe you're going out on a walk with your family, or you're going to the beach, or you're doing something fun. Just film a 7 to 10 second clip and then put a quote over that video. That's a really easy way to share something. You don't have to perform to a camera and feel all awkward as though you're not a great presenter or something along those lines.
Great.
The second thing is just commit to a rhythm of consistency where you say, you know what, I'm going to say for the next 6 months, I will post 3 times a week, or whatever that number is. Just go consistently and make sure that you hit those benchmarks. And then the third thing is look for other creators who are doing something similar to you and try and build relationships and community. It's always a lot easier when you support others and they in turn want to support you.
Great. So find somebody, join a community, and you can encourage, share insights, mistakes, and good things that are working.
Absolutely.
Okay, good stuff. Now, my daughter is doing one of those things. She shoots a bit of what we call B-roll, a bit of scenic footage.
Yeah.
She's putting some Bible verses over the top, but she feels discouraged sometimes when she might get 30 views or a small handful, and she feels like that's failure. What encouragement or advice could you give to Kira or people like her who are wanting to serve Jesus, but they don't seem to be successful? It looks like they're failing.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I have felt that way before. I feel like that on a regular basis because it turns out the more content you put out, the more likely you are to have videos that do very, very well and the more likely you are to have videos that do very poorly. So if I never post, then I'm never going to have that disappointment. But if I'm posting all the time, I might actually face that. So don't look at it as a failure. Look at it as just part of the journey, part of the experience, and realize that it's actually okay. Every single content creator you've ever seen online, they have videos that do well and they have videos that don't. The question is, are you going to do it again?
And I imagine in your journey too, like you didn't suddenly from day one have millions of views and millions of followers.
Not at all. Maybe the first 6 months to a year of my journey, I mean, I'm averaging a dozen views or something along those lines. I had a very small, and like I said, even to this day, there are videos that I post that do really, really well, and there's videos that I post that do way far lower than my expectations. And this, again, is just part of how it works.
And so for somebody who, like you're online, you're teaching, you've got the Digital Missionary Academy, you're teaching pastors on how to generate revenue for their families and stuff like that. So you're constantly online, but how do you stay grounded then? How do you stay connected to Jesus when you're so busy serving? What do you do to make sure you don't drift away from God?
It is a bit of a challenge, because if you're always online, then how do you actually really connect with anyone in real life in a meaningful way? But this is a challenge that's not unique to being a digital influencer or digital missionary. You could work a 9-to-5 job. You could be a construction worker. You can be a student at university, and that same challenge still applies. So it just comes down to priorities. It comes down to you carving time out to spend with the Lord.
How about this? For somebody who wants to serve online, but they say, I'm not an influencer, I'm not a pastor, I haven't been to theological college, whatever it is. What encouragement or advice could you give to them?
Yeah. When I think about the people who have had the most impact in my life, they have not had huge social media followings.
Okay.
They're not the person with 10 million followers. They're not the person with, these really cool videos that they put out. The people who have impacted my life the most are people like my mother, my father, some of my best friends, people who spend very little time on the internet. And what I mean by that is, let's not confuse audience with impact.
Sure.
And let's realize that even if we only post a video and 5 people see it, you don't actually know the impact of that one video to that one person. And so one of the challenges is that we can't measure success the way that maybe the world does it. I don't think that God measures success in likes or follows or views. What God measures is faithfulness.
Okay, faithfulness. So whatever He's called you to do, be faithful to that calling.
Yeah, and let's be real. Some people who might watch this video are not called to be online content creators. They're not called to be digital disciples, but some of you are. And so if you're not called to do that, then you're called to do something else. Go be faithful doing that. If God is calling you to be a mother, I just think about Mary. When her job is for 33 years to make sure that Jesus is a great, a man of God and is being trained in the Lord, that's faithfulness. She doesn't have to be an influencer, but by influencing and being faithful, influencing Jesus and by being faithful to the call that God has given her, she's absolutely doing what God wants her to do. And so faithfulness might look different for your story, for my story, but whatever God has called you to do, be faithful in it.
Excellent. How about what's your prayer for the next generation of content creators, digital missionaries? What do you hope that they can achieve?
Yeah, I think of Jesus' word that the harvest is ripe and the laborers are few. And so I'm just praying that people who hear the call to become a digital missionary would say yes to the Lord today.
Fantastic. And so if God's impressing on your heart, touching your heart, speaking to you to be involved, to serve Him with the gifts that He's giving you, like Justin's saying, just do it. Step out in faith.
Amen.
And you may not have hundreds of views for your first piece of content, but be faithful, be consistent, like you're saying. Okay, here's the last challenge for you.
All right.
I want you to complete this sentence, Justin. And so the sentence is this: if your content points people to Jesus,
then He'll do the rest.
Amen. Thank you so much, Justin Khoe, for joining me today. If people want to find out more about you, do you have a website or a social page?
If you'd like to learn more about how to be a digital missionary, you can go to thedigitalmissionary.com, or you can reach out to me personally on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, all the different platforms.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. And don't forget, like and follow for more content like this.